Episode 217 von win2day, Hockey, O'Clock. Greg Ireland, Head Coach, HC Ajoie.
win2day, Hockey, O'Clock.
In diesem Augenblick wird's jetzt richtig hitzig. Und die Scheibe kullert über die Linie.
Mittendrin statt nur der Ball.
Das ist unglaublich, was die hier zelebrieren. Nice move, another nice move. Oh, it's gone. Oh, what a goal. It doesn't get any better than this.
It took way too long to finally have him here on win2day, Hockey O'Clock. I was surprised, not in the best kind of ways, when I found out that the last time he graced the podcast with his appearance was January 11th in 2023. A lot has happened since, and I thought we can't let this go up to 1,000 days. It's been 987 days since he's been on win2day, Hockey O'Clock, and he's back. And I'm so happy about it. He's had success almost everywhere he went. He's now at a very interesting conjunction of his career. He's coaching the National League team of HC Ajoie, and I couldn't be happier to have him here again on the pod. It's, of course, Greg Ireland. Coach, really great to have you back.
Well, listen, I got to tell you, it's exciting to be back. I just enjoy talking hockey, life, football with you. Our interests seem to connect. And anytime I get on with you, it seems like we could talk for days and hours. But first, I must say to you, thank you for having me on. And the most important thing, congratulations to you. Since we've spoken, you've told me that you're a father now. The greatest coaching job you will ever do is being a father. It's the greatest job we have in life. And I don't consider it a job, but it's certainly a duty and something you can be proud of. So congratulations to you on that.
Thank you for that. And I guess it just shows that a lot can happen in 2.5 years' time. Actually, I'm a father of two. I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And I guess
Wow.
that's indeed the perfect age, because each and every day they learn something new, and you just go like, where did they get this? And how did they do this? And it's just one of the best times of the year. As is September, hockey season starts, NFL season starts. We off the records just briefly touch base on you following the Packers. It's just one of the best times of the year. And coincidentally enough, the podcast here, win2day Hockey O'Clock, has started too. So once I started planning the new season, I was like, I need to get in touch with you. We need to catch up again, because the last time around, you were coaching in Russia. Technically, you were the head coach of the Kunlun Red Star, the Chinese franchise in the KHL, but they were kind of relocated to I guess the Moscow area. Russia hadn't even started its full invasion of neighboring Ukraine yet. If you just had to sum up the past 2.5 years, or 987 days, as I said in the intro, and keeping it under 5 minutes, how would you do that?
If I was going to say one word, I'd say growth. But growth from adversity, I would say. So going quickly back to that, like, I was not intending to go to KHL. I had been asked before by the same club while I was in Switzerland, and I had not a lot of interest. It's funny how things work, and kind of the way it happened in Bolzano. I didn't have a lot of interest. And anyway, so the GM I had known, I had worked with, and I just knew how things had been there. And it was lots of topsy-turvy and things going upside down. And I said no. So this time he came back and asked me to think about it. And he kind of said, I need an answer by a week and a half from now. So I went through it. I wrote the pros and cons down. And then when that day came that he wanted the answer, I called him and said, listen, I've thought long about it. I'd love to work with you, but I just don't think it's a fit for me from where you guys have been at. And the gentleman that I knew, he's like, hey, don't give me a decision now. I'm going to come and see you. So he flew up to Canada and spent about 5 days at my house. And I knew that he was there to kind of get it done. And we just talked a lot. I told him my concerns, and he said, hey, together we're going to get this done. He had a lot of great ideas, and he's a good hockey man, and I still think he has great ideas. But between that and the execution sometimes, and getting to Russia and end with Kunlun, I think there's a lot of speed bumps that you hit there. And that was a little bit of the difficulty. I think we made great growth there. We won 21 games. The team the year before had won 7, and the year before that had won 14. So we had won 21, the same amount they won in the 2 years previous. And we would have and could have won a lot more. We were heading down the stretch. Anyway, things unraveled a little bit in before training camp. I got there. I was rushed there, got my visa, got there, and the players weren't there. There was a ton of misinformation, miscommunication. So we lost a month of training camp where the Russian teams had started. We had like 2 guys when I got there. And so we did some skill work, goalie work with the one goalie. And guys started to filter in. We had to cancel 2 preseason tournaments because we had no players. So we got going around August 23rd. The Russian teams had been going since July 14th. So we were behind the 8 ball. Started off okay. I think we went to the finals of the Governor's Tournament, the very first tournament. We started to really make some ground up by November. We were in shape. We were going. We were playing. And a little bit of it was that the Chinese Federation got involved, and they took over the coaches' salaries, and so we had a lot of Chinese guys on the team, 8 or 9 guys, and they were really good young men. They worked really hard, but for the KHL, they probably would have been best placed in the VHL or another league for their development. The KHL was just too big, fast, and strong. So we had a little bit of pressure that they wanted me to dress 3 guys and play them 5 minutes. And I don't mind the development. I think the development part is what we do as coaches. We're supposed to integrate our young guys, play them. And I'm always a believer. It doesn't matter if you're 17, if you're good enough to play, you play. But these young men had some catching up to do, and they weren't quite ready. So through the year, there was a lot of pressure to play them. And then down the stretch, when we were really fighting for a playoff spot in the last 12, 14 games, we had a lot of pressure to play those fellas. And it's not an excuse. I think that they developed and they came a long way. I think our team came a long way. And then at the end, through the year, I had an offer in November and February to sign a 2-year contract extension. I decided not to, much to the chagrin of a few people that were there. They were surprised. But for where I'm at in my career and the challenge that I'm looking for as a coach, and what I want to get out of my coaching as a leader and a man, I just felt it wasn't the right fit for me. And I felt that with the ongoing conflict that's still continuing to this day, both the dangers of it and the whole outlay of everything, with my family not having access to being around my family. I had already gone 13 months on the original COVID, being stuck away from my family in Europe. I couldn't get to see them for that duration. So it was for me, I just thought it wasn't a good fit. So I decided to leave. And anyway, when I got home, I didn't realize that the stress, the anxiety of all those things that went on. And there's a lot more that I didn't even, and I don't think it's worth getting into. I decided I was going to take a few months off, maybe November, see what was opened up and what would come. November came. I did have an offer. And my wife's mother got sick, who I was very close to, and she was back and forth staying with her. And then I just decided that I was going to take the year off to really be at home for her. She had always supported me and allowed me to do what I do best. And I thought it was a great opportunity to be there for her, to support her. She had to spend days and week at a time with her mom, and then come home for a couple of days with her business. And our dog was sick. I just thought this is a good time. And then you know what ended up coming to me, Martin, was I didn't realize how much I needed that year just to clear my head. All the stuff that went on in COVID and Bolzano, coaching the Italian national team, being locked down, the stuff that we had kind of did through that, and then kind of, being away with the conflict in Russia. I thought, and I could tell you that when I talk about growth, I grew so much, through all of this time, and it's helped me to refocus, be a better leader, really know what I'm looking for as I progress in my coaching career. So, you always turn those little adversities and speed bumps into positives, and a lot of positive has come out of that. And I'm thankful for the opportunities, and most importantly, I'm really thankful for what I've learned from those opportunities.
I have to admit that's probably one of the most impressive jobs, trying to sum up 2.5 years of your life in almost 5 minutes. You almost
There's
did it.
so much more.
I'll get to the so much more part, but you hit on two very interesting things. First of all, I vividly remember you back then talking about the Kunlun Red Stars in your time being in Russia and coaching the team, because you had a couple former win2day Ice Hockey League players on your team. Vinny Loverdi, who was one of your D leaders on your team. There was
Yes.
Cliff Poo, even though he never played a single shift in the win2day Ice Hockey League. You probably know how that went. I think Colin Campbell was on that squad, Devin Brosseau. So a lot of players that you worked with. And the other thing that you touched on is just needing that year. And as you're one of the dear friends of this program, another dear friend of this program is Tom Rowe, former Florida general manager and head coach. He's now in the German Hockey League. And I so vividly remember him saying during the pandemic, when we caught up once or twice a year, and even a little more often during some of the months, he said, I just needed that year. And it was so good to kind of clean the canvas and read and dig a little deeper and try to grow. So it's just, I guess, a message for a lot of coaches and even players out there, in case you're just too much in the thick of it. Getting away from things sometimes really help in terms of the growth department. So that's incredible to hear, that you made the best out of the hand that you were dealt with the situation in Russia. And that's where I still have a couple of questions, because you and I, we talked in January of 2023, and a couple of weeks later, Russia started its invasion in Ukraine. Did things for you on site, and I don't want to get too political, but if you allow us to take us on the inside, did things for you from living on a daily basis, coaching on a daily basis, did they change right around that invasion?
Yes, no, I would say no, and a little bit yes. And what I would say to you is, there's always two sides to the story, and not to get into the politics of things, but what we were hearing from people back home and what we were seeing were two different things. Russia was safe. It was very safe, like going into Moscow and, going out, whether we were out on New Year's Eve or whether, you went out for a late dinner and you got back, you walked downtown. There was one night I had to go to a doctor's appointment downtown, came home during rush hour in a taxi. The taxi broke down, left me on the side of the highway. I had to kind of walk over. My Russian bank card for some reason wasn't recharged. I had nothing on it. My Canadian one wouldn't work. So I had to phone a colleague. My battery on my phone was dying, and I'm in the middle of nowhere in Moscow, and nobody bothered me, and it was, and honestly, I phoned back to the hotel and said, someone, hey, can you order me a taxi to here? As soon as I get back, I have money in my drawer. And so it's a funny story, but I never felt going anywhere, whether it was in Khabarovsk or Vladivostok or Moscow or and Lokomotiv, anywhere of those places, it was fine. Where I say yes was a little bit, we had a couple of young Russian players who were very afraid. They had some knocks at their door about, getting called to the military. And one player, I think, left the country and went somewhere else. And our equipment manager had posted some things, I think, on the social media, or said he didn't, but it was posted under his name, that kind of was against the conflict. And I think there was a knock at his door to join the military, the army. And so there was that factor about the fear. And then there was always a story circulating. We heard on TSN that all Canadians should come home at this point, and that any players or coaching staffs that are in Russia should explain to the Canadian people why we're there during the conflict. The funny thing was that we were in constant communication with the Canadian ambassador. In fact, I think you and I talked about this. We twice had dinner at her place. I said to her, and our GM was very close with her. They had done a lot over the years. And we had said to her, do we have any worries? She said, no, I'm still here doing business. When we have to go, I'll let you know. We've got a plane ready to go. She was fantastic. It's funny, you talk about all these conflicts, and yet countries are opposing, but they're still in there doing business and such. And we're just hockey people. We're not politicians. We're not in there. We're trying to feed our families, try to do the best. But in the end, I just decided that maybe with all this going on and the way things were politically, it was probably better for me not to go back and, seek out something else. So from that, the league was great. The hockey was very, very good, very fast. It stretched me, made me better. And it allowed me, again, it sort of seems like, maybe since about 2015, like up to that point, I'd always been with a team long-term, 5 years, 5 years, 5 years. And then all of a sudden now it seems like I'm the guy coming out of the bullpen, having to fix up, the broken machine, so to speak. I think those experiences have also enriched me and made me better and made me confident that I can come in and, when a team is in mid-season, and, even in this case, it wasn't in mid-season, but it had a lot of broken pieces. And I think we did a really nice job, not only as a coaching staff, but the players. We brought in some really good players. I think we were really close. We beat Seasca twice. We beat Locomotive twice. We did a really, really good job with that group, and we beat Ufa. We were contending. It's just we just weren't deep enough, and having to play some of those young fellas in the lineup. Like the first part of the year, we were really playing with three lines, and Brandon Yip had a career year, was a tremendous leader, great guy. At one point I looked down, he was playing 28 minutes. He was 38 years old. And I said, Yipper, as much as it pains, you're a good penalty killer, I got to take you off PK because I need to save you. I'm going to wear you out. And so, and with the travel and such, you just can't play at these levels that we play at with three lines. And, those are things that, really challenge you in terms of a coach and as an organization.
First, I got my numbers a little wrong. The invasion started in February of 2022. You coached there for the 22-23 season, so that 3-day military special operation, as it was originally labeled, had already gone on for a couple of months, and it's still ongoing, and it has escalated to a full-fledged war, unfortunately. But just with things on site being okay for you and you feeling safe and everything, once you got out of Russia and once you eventually got to spend that year and catching up with your family, loved ones, and all the things that happened in Canada, was there ever a point where you thought, it's probably not the worst thing that I got out of this in one piece and safely?
Yeah. How do I answer that without being political? Because I think it's too easy. I think it's too easy in today's world, especially with social media, and we've seen a lot of it lately, especially in the West, where we are so quick to put out opinions, but we find out we really are uneducated about what's going on behind the scenes. We're fed the information that people want to give us, and so it's really. But at the end of the day, I think when you boil it down and just eliminate the politics of it, putting yourself closer to a war zone is probably never the smartest thing. But then I look at the last few days and how things are ramping up here with Europe, and a lot of pressure from Brussels to move towards joining the war and getting this, and and for me, it's like two young boys at the schoolyard. It's not, because this is life and death, but if I remember being at the schoolyard and people encouraging us to drop the gloves, so to speak, and get into it and finish our dispute, when cooler heads prevailed and maybe had to come in and say, hey boys, come on, let's go talk about this. at the end of the day, we don't want to see war. We don't want to see someone's children going to war and sacrificing themselves for things that maybe could be decided in a better way. And at the end of the day, that's as political as I'll get. I don't think we want to get towards that, and none of us need to see that, uh, ever again. But on the same respect, when you put yourself closer to a war, obviously there's dangers to it, and especially when you're living, you're an expat living in another country with different rules and laws. I think it's always, and those are the thoughts that went through my head in making my decision. From working with the GM and the coaching staff and the players there, I loved it. I thought they're great guys. And, as I said, the GM and I had worked before. He's a really good hockey man, Scott McPherson. I have a lot of respect for him. And my assistant coach is Victor Ignatievs, Mark Kumpel, Stevie Briesner, our strength and conditioning coaches with Malmo now. Even our staff members, our video guys and our team, just tremendous guys. But all the things kind of piled together was just made for a lot of stress and strain. And, it was good time for a change. And even though I moved back, and during that time, I will say, like, it just helped me to, as you said, you go back, I sought out a lot of people for some talks and advice from both hockey and life. I got closer in my spirituality to a place where I felt I needed to be, and I'm glad that I'm at, and really took value in what I've had. And since I've left, both my sons, one's 30, one's 25, have gotten married, and my oldest son is had a baby this year. I'm a grandfather now. Way too young. I look way too young to be a grandfather. I'm way too young at heart, but I'm so excited. It's the light of my life. Every day they video chat with me and my face just lights up, and I just love it.
Well, first of all, congratulations on becoming a grandfather. Yeah, that probably still doesn't sound right, but I know the drill from my parents. They had a hard time dealing with it too. I guess it's just the way it goes. And I know you have strong opinions. I have strong opinions. That was the kind of last political segment. I didn't want to leave you or lead you on a slippery slope, but it's just so interesting because not a lot of people from Europe or North America really have been to Russia during the past couple of years and got that inside look. And of course, you put it perfectly, who really wants to be in an active war zone? I mean, if everybody answers this question for him and her, honestly, it's probably no one. So we'll put that topic aside and try to fill in the last couple of blanks until we get to your current job with Ajoie. Being at home and having that, I don't want to call it sabbatical. Maybe you have a better term for me, but being at home and catching up on all those things, and you still being a coaching lifer. You've been doing this since the early 90s. You've been in this business many decades. At what point did the itch return? Did the itch ever go, or was there a point in time where you thought like, well, I think I'm ready again to seek out new opportunities? Was it a process, or was there a specific point that you can lead it back to?
Well, it never left. I was hungry right away. And it goes back to like this, even in when I left Lugano, I had an offer, but I was really disappointed because it wasn't what was promised. And I'm a real person of principle, and the offer wasn't what's promised. I got my back up. I don't think I handled it very well. And I left thinking, hey, I think I've done a pretty good job here. Somebody's going to make a call. But by the time it was out, like, because I have a policy too that I try not to look for a job while I have another one. I don't think it's right. I think my focus needs to be. So end of the season came in, anything that was worthwhile was already taken. So I thought, okay, I'm going to start on the sideline. Something will open up. And I had a couple offers, in the early fall. They weren't good. I was kind of, you play the game. Do I wait? Do I watch? And I don't want to take something where my heart's not in it. It's just not me. So, I kind of ended up being out, and then Christmas came, and Pat Curcio had called and said, hey, Bolzano might open. I'm like, some of the things I've heard, I'm not sure I really want to go. Anyway, it's funny how things work. But this time coming back from Russia, I was still like, okay, I got to find a job. This is what I do. It's my blood. I want to go. I didn't realize till later how tired I was and how stressed I was and how much I was ready to go. And I, I didn't realize till the end of the year how much I needed it. I was ready. If the call had came and it was a great spot, I'd be like, yeah, let's do this. And I think I would have toughed it out. But I think my energy, my focus, I had time to connect with other fellow coaches. I had time to get on and take a few courses. I went two or three times during that time. I joined for like a week, 2 weeks at a time, the Canadian national men's Paralympic hockey team, the sled hockey team. And I had done it a little bit before, and I have to tell you, it's the greatest group of athletes. I am so inspired by them. I watch them. They are high performance athletes that have disabilities. That's it. They train. Their approach, their focus, their willingness to be coachable. And I must tell you, actually, I was with that team in November out in St. John's, New Brunswick. We were playing a tournament against U.S., China, and I got the call that my mother-in-law was sick. That's when my wife first called, and do I need to come home? And I can tell you another strain that I had in Russia. My mom was really sick, and things had taken a turn for the worst. And my wife had thought that she never does that. And I got a call. I was about 10 minutes away from going. We were in Minsk, and I haven't told very many people this. We were in Minsk, and I was getting ready to run the power play meeting. And my wife called, and she said, "Hey, I would never do this, but you might have to come home." And it was tough. And luckily, my mom is a tough lady, and she pulled through. But I was on edge for many, many weeks, praying, and I can tell you that it was a tough time, and being that far away. So that played a lot of stress and strain into it, and it took months. But luckily, she's recovered from being very close to death to coming back. But when you're away from your family and these things go on, it's not like you're coaching in your backyard, and it's a tough thing. So, all those things of every family goes through them. Whether it's loss, illness, stresses. Military families being away. That with COVID. As I said, I was 13 months away, but at the same time, while I was away during COVID, I was coaching two teams. I had the national team of Italy. I had Bolzano, and the stresses and strains of trying to deal with contract negotiation and all that stuff in Bolzano was stressful. And then when I was away in Russia, there was a lot of pressure. I did not originally sign to coach the Chinese national team. They just kept coming to me all year and saying, "You're going to be the coach, and if you want to get paid, you have to do it." And I said, "No problem, I'll go home." And they said, "Well, then we're not going to pay your assistant coaches." Then I have that stress of, these good men having to worry about feeding their families. And, so there's all these things that kind of go into it. But I can tell you that I'm a very resilient, strong man, and that I've experienced a lot of things. I'm a very principled person. And so even with a good contract on the table, I said, "No, this is not for me. I'm going to go home and I'll refocus, and I'm going to go somewhere where it's a worthwhile project to work with people of the same mindset that want to build something up and build whatever that vision of success is, but build towards success by being on the same page with a strong culture."
First, I tremendously appreciate your honesty and openness about or talking about some of the things that went on. I'm sure a lot of people out there will appreciate too. Secondly, you're preaching to the choir as regards para hockey. It's been one of the staples of this podcast too. And just a couple of months ago, I had Michel Laflamme from World Para Ice Hockey on the program. And if you talk to the people involved, and if you see them play, and everything just like puts a lot of things in perspective, what they had to go through and what they have to go through to quote unquote just play hockey or their hockey. Your problems suddenly are very, very, very different, seem incredibly small compared to other problems that other people are having. And it kind of does a lot for you in a positive way.
I'll tell you the story for me. the first time I did this, they asked me, the GM was a good friend of mine and the assistant coach, and they invited four of us guys out as Don Knockbauer, who, as you know, a good Austrian rooted man, Daniel Lacroix, myself. I think it was Larry Hirsch was the fourth to come out and be guest coaches in Calgary, and pretty good lineup actually. And got into we're in the Team Canada room. I'm talking to these young men, and they're great. Blah blah blah. Nothing. First practice was in the second rink. So you get your skates on, you walk past the first rink, you go down, and I come around the boards where it's by the players' benches to enter, and I see all these artificial limbs leaning against the boards, and four other guys taking their leg off and then trying to position in the cart, and my heart dropped, and I was like, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? Like these, as you said, these guys, and we had one of the goaltenders, Dom Laroque, like he was in the military, and an IED or a bomb went off and lost a limb. We had we had one player that was for his graduation of high school, someone bought him the gift of parachuting. He went out of a plane. Now, you go the first time you go on somebody's back, and it went wrong. The guy landed on him, paralyzed him. We had another boy that he played on the same junior line in the Quebec Major Junior League. So as a full body player, he played with what's the kid that's on the New York Rangers? He was the first overall pick. They played on the same line, and this guy got into a snowmobile accident.
It's probably Lafreniere.
Exactly, that's who it was, Lafreniere. And they played on the same line, and now this young man he was actually on a tryout with the national team at that point. Bole is his name. And you just hear these stories, and it rocks you to the core. And then you see these guys that are resilient, and they love sport. They love the game. The captain of who's just Tyler McGregor, captain of Canada, is just a tremendous young man. And during his draft year in the OHL, he was up to be a draft pick in the OHL and possibly an NHL player, and contracted a disease and had to have an amputation. So you go from complete 180 in your life to these things, and you see the passion they have for the game and the willingness to train. And obviously, in between seeing that and what happened, there's a lot of emotional stuff that they have to go through to get to that. And so as you said, the respect and the admiration that I have for those athletes. So whenever they're on, I tune in and I tell everyone it's my favorite hockey team. Everyone says, "What's your favorite team?" And that's what my favorite team is: the Canadian national men's sled hockey team. I love those guys. I honor them, and I follow them at every game I can watch them. They're the best.
Couldn't have said it any better. And these all the people involved in para hockey that I was fortunate enough to be talking to, they love their hockey just as much, if not more. And you need to invest so much more to be doing this. So tremendous amount of respect go out to all the people involved in para hockey, playing para hockey. And spoiler alert, there's going to be para hockey again on season 6 here of win2day Hockey-Talk. And it's probably there's never a good segue to kind of move on to another topic. So I'm not even gonna try to come up with a good segue.
One thing I would like to say to the fans out there is when I went that first camp, the coach said to me, "Hey, bring your drills and systems." I'm like, "I've never coached para. I don't know." He goes, "Exact same drills, exact same system." I'm like, "Get out of town." He goes, "No, it's exactly the same." So amazing that these guys can, do these things that we do, and having to turn in a cart. And there's a guy in Team Canada, the first time I was on the ice, he went down and made a pivot on the puck turn as good as anyone could do with skates on. But I'll tell you one thing. I heard the story, and it's a secondhand from one of the coaches, the head coach at the time, and he said one of the players had one leg amputated and came to him and said, "I'm thinking of having my other leg taken off." And he said, "Why?" He goes, "Why would you do that?" He goes, "Why do I need it?" He goes, "I can be quicker and faster in the cart." And the U.S. team has more double leg amputees, so they have a smaller cart. they're quicker, they pivot, they're harder to knock off. It's really, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like someone would, they're thinking about being better in their sport by taking a piece of their body away. And, we have guys in this league, we asked them to bag skate at the end of practice to get in shape. And they're like, oh my God, why do I have to do that? It's just unbelievable. Some of the stories that comes out of this.
Again, no perfect segue. I'm not gonna even try.
Okay. No.
I just wanna focus one last time on your journey back to the National League in Switzerland, and promise to all the people out there we'll eventually get to the National League and Ajoie and all the things there. But you were talking about growth and just getting away from the game. In what regard, well, not too far away from the game, obviously, but in what regard would you say did you grow the most? Was it something mentally? Did you start knitting something completely different? What's the one thing where you'd put your finger on first?
Wow. I know what the answer is, but I'm just saying how I say it. I think self-awareness. I've always been a hard critic of myself. I've always been, I'm a fiery, emotional, hard-charging guy. And I've had many people sit with me later and go, geez, you're a pretty good guy. Like when I coach against you, you're fired up and you're going. I think I still have that. I'm a little bit more grounded, and where that came from is spirituality. There's many times that I've had to get on my knees and pray, and I think I've gotten closer with God. I think on the other side of that, that's helped me to know that, no matter what happens to me in my journey, no matter what happens to me in hockey, anywhere, there's things in my life that are so important to me that can never be taken away. And the other thing is even in hockey, in my career, which is so important to me, it's just what I do. It's not who I am. Like I'm proud of the things that I've done in hockey and how far that I've come and I've grown. There's things in my career that I wish I could do different or not have said, or all those things have maybe how I think the other thing is that I looked at was that learning to deal with people, that everybody has a different journey, and why that player or another coach or the referee, maybe how they talk to you or act or what. Sometimes what we perceive, why'd the guy talk to me like that? Or why, like for instance, let's say you're driving to work in the morning and someone cuts you off, gives you the finger. And you're like, wow, what a jerk. And why would he do that? But we don't know, maybe he's rushing to the hospital. His wife just got rushed into the hospital or having a baby or maybe, that referee, he was late for the game. He was just missed a car accident. We don't know what's going on in someone else's life. And sometimes we put ourselves at the center and say, oh, it's about me. And I've really learned, I'm not there yet, but I've really learned to kind of maybe it's not about me. And maybe that player who's having an off day or a bad couple of days, maybe something's going on with them. I've always tried to have really good communications with the players, but maybe you're looking at a guy and go, oh, his body language is bad, and I'm going to get on him, and I'm going to tell him he doesn't need to have, but maybe I need to find out a little bit more first. And I think just understanding that stuff and being a little bit more grounded and building relationships and seeing those things. At the same time, I think self-awareness, continuing to know that, yeah, I have a lot of experience in this game, but this game is always changing and growing. And if you stand still, it will grow over you. So I've always taken a lot of pride in COVID. I took a lot of courses. I took right before COVID, actually. It was 7 courses. It took 2 years to finish at Cornell University on elite performance leadership, learning how to deal with leaders, be a better leader at this elite level. But I also did during COVID, I started my own Zoom chat, and it started with 25 coaches that I knew. What I would do is I'd put out a topic, and I would go to a couple of guys and say, hey, you want to present next week? This is the topic. And I tried to find obscure like not just, talk about penalty kill. I would say talk about penalty kill, forecheck versus the drop. Something a little bit that you couldn't get at a coaching clinic. Like our first group, I started with Daniel Kachuk, who was a skills coach and later a head coach in the American League, but he's a skills coach for St. Louis at the time. He did 30 minutes, and Tobias Johansson, who at the time was the under-20 coach at Frölunda, but is now the national team coach in Norway. I had Tobias come on and talk about skill development in Europe, in Sweden. And so it was a comparison between North America and US. And I had coaches, at the end of it, we had 47 coaches from the KHL to the NHL, every league in Europe, US college, OHL, Quebec League, Western League. It just started with connections that I knew. And then guys would say, hey, can I bring a buddy? Can I have this guy? And what I was doing on that was not only coming up with different ways to look at the game and trade information, but what I was trying to do was bridge the gap between North America and Europe. And I'll tell you why in a second, but what I wanted was the North American guys to say, hey, there's a lot of great things going on in Europe that we can look at and we can steal. And I want the European guys to look at and say, hey, there's great things going on in the Quebec League, the OHL, Canadian University, NHL, that we can apply over here.
Let me just intersect
and that we're not that different.
Let me just quickly intersect here. Sorry to interrupt you. That's normally not my style, but this is a very important point. From your vast experiences, has that gap between North America and Europe narrowed, in your opinion, or has it gotten bigger?
No, I think it's narrowed. It's narrowed. We're starting to see European coaches go over and coach in Major Junior, National League. And I can tell you that from coaching in Austria, in Italy, KHL, Germany, Switzerland, that the game is being played very similar. And there's a blend. And this is where this whole thing with the Zoom chat came in was, I don't consider myself a Canadian coach anymore. I'm what I call an international coach. I have coached in a number of leagues throughout the world, and I've taken pieces of all those leagues and the mentality and the style of play and different systems, and I've blended them into mine. And I've coached against, many great coaches from Finland, Sweden, Switzerland, Germany, Austria, you name it, Russia. And I've seen how they've done things and learning how to defend it and learning how to do it. So I think there's a blend, but the game is, if you go to the NHL, everyone can say, oh, the big ice, the small ice. The game is not that much different. I think the biggest difference right now that I would say, and it's slowly changing, is a lot of coaches in Europe still teach man-on-man defense, and the NHL style hybrid, so to speak, is now becoming a lot more influential here in Europe, and you're seeing more coaches you're coming up are using that. When I first came, it was a lot of man-on-man. But other than that, the game, the forecheck styles, like everybody, there's always going to be the different ones, but coaches on both sides use it. I think the communication style, everything is kind of bridging the gap. And so that's kind of why I got on that Zoom call was one to fill the time and keep the hockey talk, create growth mindset, bring together the people that I know that don't know each other. And a lot of guys have come to me and said, man, I still have connections to this guy and that guy. So last year we're playing Bern. This is how it comes full circle. And the two assistant coaches in Bern are both Swedish guys. And how I met them was I had a part of a year off, and UC Sealander and I went to Sweden. We phoned ahead to a bunch of clubs and said, hey, we're coming. Could we watch practice games? Could we go for lunch? Could we talk hockey? Again, growth mindset. How can we trade ideas to become better coaches? And there were some clubs that were really good to us. And these two fellas, Christopher Olsen, who you know has been around, and the other fellow was at Deer Garden at the time, and we went in and we just hit it off. So anyway, they're both assistants in Bern last year. And at the end of a game here, we had a really terrific game against each other. It was a hard battle. One of my equipment guys come and said, hey, there's 2 guys outside from Bern that want to talk to you. And I went out with them, and we had a great talk and what they were doing and how things were going. And at the end, they said, hey, I got to tell you, I really miss those Zoom calls. I really miss it. And they're like, yeah, I met so many good guys. I learned a lot. And then, Michael says, yeah, like the time we had the guy on from New Zealand who talked about the All Blacks. And he goes, I learned so much about building culture and building team from that. And so I felt proud of it because that's what coaching is. It's about sharing where we compete, we battle against each other, but the sharing of ideas creates a growth mindset, which helps the game grow to be better. And it bridges the gap between not only, across the pond, but from country to country as well. And that's what we should be all invested in, is growing this game.
So no chance that the Zoom calls might return because of the day-to-day grind that all the coaches and now you are in right now?
I don't know. I'd like to try to find a way. My wife said, you really enjoy it. You should find a way to, whether we maybe do it in the summer. It's entering my mind. I'm creatively rolling it around in there, and I'm hoping it finds a way to resurface.
If you ever need a cheap advisor on that, there are many, many ways to monetize this right now. And I do see a scenario where you could really make good money off of that by people just being able to access what premier coaches in hockey are talking about. But until we get to this, a couple of things that we still need to tackle. Not that we're running out of time, but I've already dipped so deep into your time budget. Maybe we have to eventually make this a 2-parter, and you have to come back on the pod at a later stage of the year. The thing is, you were not out of the business, but you took some time for yourself and you spent it with your family, and you didn't coach full time for 1.5 years. And I just recently talked to a coach, and he said, you wouldn't imagine how fast the market for players and coaches changes within a couple of months, let alone speaking of years. Did the market change for you once you got back on it and actively seek new job opportunities?
Well, I could tell you since about 2020, from the time I left Lugano, those moments when I've been not coaching or not employed, you think, I think I've done a good enough job. I think I have a good heart. I have a good mindset. I think I'm gonna, someone's gonna see that and want to. And at those moments, there hasn't been a ton. I will tell you, every time I've been out, I've had some offers, and for whatever reason at the time, maybe we couldn't contractually agree. That's happened a few times. Maybe I felt it wasn't the right spot.
Nature of the business
to go to. Yeah, I've turned down a few. One, I won't say the team in Germany. I kind of regretted it. The money wasn't great, but it's not about money. I left good money on the table in a couple spots, and I've taken lesser money at other spots. To me now, it's about the project. It's about the working in the right environment and building the culture. And I'll talk about that in a second. But I regret it, not that one, because I think the GM and I together would have worked really well. It was kind of narrow-mindedness on my speaking. And that's one of the gross things that I've come to now in that time being out, when I've really got in touch with and having an awareness, is just knowing, maybe not overreacting to situations and saying, okay, the money's not great, or that's not great. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna walk away. It's just taking a breath sometimes, and maybe seeing other values and seeing things. But anyway, that was one. I had another offer in between that 18 months being out of Kunlun from a place that I've been offered 3 times now, and I don't know why it hasn't worked out. Because I get along so well with the people that run the team, and
yeah, maybe the fourth time's the charm. Who knows?
Well, I think it's, and I've always said to the guys, like, I think we're going to work together one day. I really do, because I love the city. I love the organization. I like the people. I think the new GM there is doing a great job, and he's going to do an excellent job. And I think him and I connect. but it didn't happen. And then I was like, did I make a mistake? Should I wait it? And it's funny, like that stuff comes up and you start to think, should I have jumped on that? But then you're just jumping on, if it doesn't feel right at the moment, you're just jumping on something because you're going for the job, the money to pay the bills. And listen, we all have to feed our families. But I'm a bit of I'm a bit of a dreamer, and that I just want to be in. I want a project where things are really good, and I know the last several years, as I said, I've come in as a pinch hitter, and I'm trying to build on something where I can get back to being in those long-term plans, 4, 5, 6 years. Like if it wasn't for a few things, I would have signed in Bolzano for 10 years. I love the area. I love the people. I like the players. I love the assistant coach that I worked with there. There was just other factors. It just wasn't going to work. And but at the same time is this, just be careful of jumping too much. So no, I think that time off was for a reason. I really do. I really think I'm a huge believer that things happen in our lives for a reason. We sometimes don't realize it. There's a plan for us, and that plan sometimes unfolds without us even knowing it. And I think having that time off is refreshed, re-energized, refocused me. And I'm more energetic, but I also think I'm a lot more grounded and able to see even bigger picture than I was able to see in the past, because I have my eyes wide open right now, and I think that's important.
How long did it take you once you got a call from Ajoie and eventually an offer from Ajoie to think about the job and then take the job? How long did it take you?
To be honest with you, like, it's funny because this is not the first time this has happened. The night before I had the phone call, a friend of mine said, "You're probably going to get a call from Ajoie." I'm like, "Really? You think?" Yeah, yeah. And so I woke up the next morning. It was like 7:00. I was waking up. I like to, when I'm at home now, I usually get a coffee early. My wife's already up. She's an early bird. I'm a late bird, but I was like 7:15, and I get a coffee. I try to go and sit out in the backyard. I have a forest behind me, and then as the sun's coming over the trees, I just like drink my coffee. I let the sun hit, and it's a great time to get some vitamin D and just kind of start your day. And I was just getting ready to do it, and I looked at my phone. I had a message from 2 hours earlier from Julian Beauclair. Hey, do you have time to talk? And so I kind of knew what was up. So from that moment, it probably took, I think we knew within 10 minutes of our conversation. Then it was just a matter of, let's get this done, because Julian had played for me twice before. I knew what he was. He knew. We had talked actually a year earlier. No, maybe a bit more. It was a bit more than that. It might have been right after I left Kunlun. And at the time where their budget at wasn't, and a couple other things, it wasn't a fit. And I kind of even knew that then. But this time now, being in a different spot, I was like, hey, it's not always about money. It's about going in and working with good people and having a project that we can, help to grow. And everyone's vision, if you're going to Frölunda or Salzburg or Berlin, Munich or ZSA, Zug, it's a different focus. When you're coming to a club that's been in a little bit of trouble, it's fired a coach. The measures of success early on can be a lot different. And that's kind of the path and the journey that we're on right now, is trying to recreate a culture of a team that's been in, the bottom for 4 years. Prior to that, in the B League had a winning tradition. So let's not take away from that. But we're trying to establish. And then what happens is you get onto these teams, and the best Swiss players certainly don't want to come here. They feel they don't want the pressures of maybe playing in a playout, possibly. They want to be in playoffs. The better guys, plus budget-wise, our budget's not going to compete with Zug, Bern, Zurich, Lugano, even Ambri and such, and those teams. So when we go to offer a decent player that may be thinking about coming, we're maybe not in the ballpark, sometimes even with the imports. So we're really working on finding people that fit, like we've added Jeremy Wick, who Canadian Swiss guy that's been in the league, just tremendous. And our GM said, like, what a great fit he's been. And we continue to strive to find those guys that fit what we're building, and the players that are here, you help them feel good and confident and understand the structure of what a winning culture, successful culture means. And so that's the project. And, let's be honest, like Ajoie's, fired a few coaches over the years. So I think for me, it's perfect because I don't worry about that. As you've seen for me, I've left places because it hasn't been a good fit. So I don't worry about leaving, but I certainly would like the opportunity to be here long term and help bridge the gap and make this an organization that has success on a consistent basis. And we take the step and the leap out of being in those bottom playout spots, and that we get to a spot where we're competing for playoffs every year.
Now, this might be the time of the year where a lot of people start wrapping their heads around the National League, and hockey in Switzerland is tremendous. You see it on a national team level, trickles down to the league that's called National League. Indeed, it's a very healthy product. The arenas are always full. Hockey's great. The players are tremendous. Some of the best imports, if not the best imports that you can find in Europe. And you've been in Ajoie and having to deal with Julien Vauclair. And I have to preface this maybe a little bit for people who don't know him. If they don't know him, shame on you. He's probably one of the greatest hockey players Switzerland has ever seen. Has been inducted into the Swiss Hockey Hall of Fame. You and he were kind of intertwined at different stages of your careers. I think he played in North America when you coached in the American Hockey League. He played for you in Lugano. You know him well. He knows you well. Is it easier, or does it make things more difficult if there's a common base, and if you know the sports manager in Julien Vauclair's case with you so well? Are the negotiations harder, or does it make it a lot easier having that the common base?
No, like I'll tell you, I think it could go both ways, and it depends on the people. In this case, it went so well because when Julien was a good leader for us. He's a very quiet, humble man. As you said, has had a tremendous career. Was captain of the national team, captain in Lugano, 20-year career. Started as a 17-year-old. Was on the last championship team there. Was actually played a couple NHL games for Ottawa. Was in Grand Rapids right before I got there. A couple years, 2 years before. And then we'd work together. But he was just a quiet, humble leader for me in Lugano, and he's the same way here. He's got a lot on his table. He works very hard at it. And no, it was easy. Like for me, he came back and he said, listen, this is kind of, from the first negotiation, this is what we had to offer. I told, they were going to throw some bonuses, this and this. I told him, listen, this is the coach I want. Let's get the offer. Let's not have this. We'll give you this. No, I'll take the back and forth, debate of a normal contract. And I knew that when he said that, he was honest, because that's the guy that I had dealt with as a player. And since I've been here, it's been nothing but the same. There's been a couple days where I'm like, hey, I haven't seen you, around. He goes, no, I've had other things to do, and I trust what you guys are doing. Things are rolling, and that made us feel good. But even the assistant coach said, yeah, like before he was at the rink all the time, always making sure everything was okay. He goes, now it's almost like he trusts the process of what we're doing, and having that trust and communication and honesty, integrity within a relationship is the most important thing in any relationship, in any walk of life. But we have that. There's obviously going to always be the stresses and strains of the National League, of coaching in Europe, of coaching in Switzerland, that, it's a results oriented business. And, a lot of people don't understand the complexities of what a club like ours goes through as opposed to a club like Zurich. But the expectations from fans and media will always remain the same. But at the same time, I think if you just focus on your daily plan, your long-term plan as a coach, and you don't put your thoughts or worries into that stuff, and you don't really have a lot of, stresses and strains over those things, I think you can do your job very well. And that's really how I look to focus and what we're trying to do here. And, although we haven't started that well, we got our first win the other night. We played absolutely incredible against Rappersville last week. And unfortunately for the boys, they didn't get what they deserved. Thought we played a pretty good game in Lugano. We got outchanced 16-15, but it was very close. We lost 2-0. We just didn't, I don't think we did enough to score. But we're growing. We're getting better. And in that meantime, you know me, I'm not an excuse guy. We've had our best player out since December. Jerry Turkalainen was the leading scorer in the league when he got hurt. We haven't had him since. And then in February, we lost the third leading scorer in the league, Julius Natanen, who's out again for us. So despite the not very deep roster, when you lose your two best imports one's for 10 months and one's for an extended period of time, the other's for, it puts a lot of different looks in your lineup that we need. We need that very important. And we've just gotten down to 6 injuries now, but we've been up as high as 12 through the start of the season. Up till last Friday, we were at 9. So, if we can get through those and get those guys back, continue to grow and feel better, then what Julian and I are trying to build can take some firm steps forward.
One last thing, Julian Vauclair, you of course had your numbers right. He had played in the National Hockey League, but exactly one game. And if people out there don't know how to spend their next couple of afternoons, there's a tremendous book out there. It's been written by Ken Reed, and it's called One Night Only, Conversations with People Who Played Exactly One National Hockey League game. Everybody tries to get into the big league, and when the day finally is here, they're usually surprised because some of them are call-ups, and then it happens once and never again. It's a book full of joy. It's sad in some parts, and there are only around about 400 players on the planet who got lucky enough to get their shot, but then a second shot kind of never came, and they have exactly one NHL game to their credit. But then again, Julien Vauclair's career is out of this world, and one of the best Switzerland has ever seen. So glad that you're able to work with him. But the thing is, and you've already kind of outlined this a little bit with Ajoie, and then probably not going to be winning other teams are maybe a little more likely to win the championship this year in Switzerland than Ajoie is. And the thing with you is you've always spent the majority of your career with contenders. If you look at Lugano during your heyday there, if you look at Bolzano, if you go back to other stints that you had, Ajoie is probably on the other end of that scale. Did that change any of your coaching, knowing that you probably wouldn't have as high or find as high a ceiling as with other teams when you got the call from Ajoie and agreed to jump onto their job?
2 things on that. I think you have to remember when I went to Lugano, they had fired a coach. I think when I got there, they were in 10th place in 2017. First of all, when I went in 2011, for the brief time, they were just finishing the season, but guaranteed to go to playout. So we had to play playouts versus Rappersville. We won 4 straight. Then when I went there in 2017, in January 2017, we ended up winning, I think, 7 of our last 10 games. And we moved up. I'm not sure if it was 7th or 8th. And we had to play Zurich. It might have been 8th because we had to play Zurich first round. I think they were I don't have the internet in front of me, but I think they were first overall. We beat them out. So again, they were down in the standings. And then stayed the next year and really had the full year to work at it. And we went through some adversities that year, which I won't get into. Right at the end of the season, we lost 3 of our top players. But the way that our culture was built from that year, we ended up going to the finals. We lost in game 7 to Zurich.
On home ice, so 1-0 affair.
Yeah. I think it ended up being 2.
Yeah,
it was an empty netter right at the end, but it was really a 1-0 game. And we just ran out of gas. So, Max Lapierre got hurt in game 6.
It was the slimmest of margins that we're talking about.
Yeah. And then when I went to Bolzano, although they had obviously the highest winning percentage Italian team, again, fired a couple coaches. They got rid of Kirchhoff, won it when that year that they got rid of Pat, and then Clayton, real good man too. Both guys are great guys. Clayton had gotten fired with us, and they were down the standings, and we went on a heck of a run. The way that they did that funny schedule, we ended up being at the top by the time that season ended, and then up 2-0, but time COVID. But again, they were good organizations that had really dropped down. So there was that aspect. Like, I think coming in late, I've acquired a lot of experience now on what it takes. But you're right, it is a lot different. Like in Bolzano and even Lugano, up and maybe till the last year or two, if you don't win the trophy, you've had a bad year. And that's why they fire so many coaches. I think in Lugano, up until the time that I went there the second time, I think they had gone through 19 coaches in 12 years, maybe, or 4. It's something to that effect. And I can honestly say that both times I've been there, I've never been fired. I've left on my own accord. And the same in Bolzano. I left because I wanted to leave both times. I left. That's not always the way too. Like, I think that's another story for another day. But anyway, but what I would say to you is, yeah, this is a little bit more like Kunlun. That experience of being a bottom team that nobody thought highly of, all the journalists and the incumbents, everybody's like, hey, this is going to be, this will be the last place team. This will be the team that, you can count out. So from that aspect, yes, you're right. And yet I look at this team and I see value. I see good players. I see good people. I see a board that's really good and really invested and really cares. But accepting the fact that sometimes in this business, and it's everywhere, in the National Hockey League, you have the Toronto Maple Leafs with, despite what you say about the budget, or even the Southern teams with the advantage of the tax break and the nice weather. In the OHL, you had the London Knights and Windsor Spitfires who could spend whatever they want to get whatever they want. Every league has that. And that's, unfortunately, you're, as a coach, you're like, oh, it would be great to go there, but sometimes you got to be careful what you wish for. It could be a different set of strains and stresses and problems, and those jobs aren't always opening because, those teams are winning. So when you're looking for a job, usually you're going in somewhere that something's gone wrong or it's been broken, and you have to come in there. And if they have the budget, if they have the wherewithal, you can turn it pretty quickly. But when it's a team that maybe, doesn't have the budget and has been down for a little while, it's going to take a little bit longer. And, that's where we're at now. We're not an overnight project. We're not going to turn this and be in first place overnight. For us, it's one step at a time. And for us, the next step now is let's get out of those last 2 places of relegation. Let's start fighting our way up towards that, 10th spot where we're competing in that play-in. Now, not the play-out, but the play-in round. And we're starting to compete for that. But then the next step from that was, let's do that on a consistent basis. And when I come to this league, Ambry was the team, one of the teams. Rappy, the same thing. Rappy actually had to go down a little bit. Same with Cloton. They were always in that relegation. And I can't imagine the stress that it puts you under all the time. But then, for sure, now that Rappy's come back, but Ambry especially, they've kind of gotten out of that. They're always in that 6 to 10, 6 to 11. They're battling for the play-in. They're battling for playoffs. So they've kind of elevated. And that's a path that, we as an organization have to look at to take the next step.
I only got a couple more questions, and I'm so thankful that you've already spent more than an hour here on win2day Hockey-Talk. And again, I'll take you up on that offer to jump onto the podcast a second time this upcoming season, because then a lot more National League hockey will have been played.
For sure.
But that one win this past Saturday against Bern, and again, I have to preface this a little bit. You already said you were close a couple of times. You are still dealing with some key injuries. Then there are the 8 games that you played. First, I want to start with the 8 games. What was it like? What did you expect? What did you see? What did you learn? What did you see? And then what did you learn? What did you see? And then what did you learn? What did you see? And then what did you learn? What did you see? And then what did you learn? What did you see? And then what did you learn? What did you see? And then what did you learn? What did you see? And then what did you learn? What did you see? And then what did you learn? What did you see? And then what did you learn? What did you see? And then what did you learn? What did you see? And then what did you learn? What did you see? And then what did you learn? What did you see? And then what did you learn? What did you see? And then what did you learn? What did you see? And then what did you learn? What did you see? And then what did you learn? What did you see? And then what did you learn? What did you see? And then what did you le advanced stats that I try to dig up, and the advanced stats, especially as the expected goals go, would suggest that you're more a middle tier team in the 14-team National League than a bottom feeder. The game against Bern, and you finally being able to celebrate a 4-0 win of all wins, so a shutout as well, and things apparently really clicking for the first time after you'd been close in other games, after the advanced stats had suggested that you should be winning some of these games. How good did it eventually feel to just to get that first W monkey off your back on Saturday?
Well, we talked about this morning at practice, and I went in, and the music seemed a little louder. The voices, the dancing, the singing was just a little bit louder. And as a coach, you walk out going, okay, not too high, not too low. You know, my thoughts right away start turning towards our next game on Tuesday against Cloten. But then I went in today and I said, you know, it was a nice feeling to see you guys so happy. It felt really good. It made Sunday off a lot better. And I think the sleep was a lot better. But I said, you know, in life, becoming a father, becoming a grandfather, getting married, we should celebrate our victories. Life should be about joy. You know, too often I think we have wars going on in the world. We have social media that influences the way we think, and quite often sometimes in not very good ways. But we have to get back to, as you said to me before we got on, sometimes getting off these tablets and getting engaged with people, walking, seeing the sunshine, having your coffee in the morning. Like, life is about joy. And so celebrating our victories is important, and we shouldn't take that away. And the ones that you fight the hardest for should be the ones that feel the best. And we fought really damn hard for that victory. Not just Saturday night. We fought Friday. We play Zurich. I'll go back on this. We play Zurich right off. Like, we played 3 16-year-olds all the way through training camp, which was awesome. Didn't expect to. 3 16-year-olds and 3 18-year-olds because of injury. And it was great for their growth. And I got to see these kids and know them now. And now when I go watch the junior games, I know them. And then we bring them to practice now. I'm going to know them better. But we went to Zurich right off with an injury-riddled lineup where we played them. And they come in here. We lost 4-1. And I thought we had a great first period against them. The second period cost us, and we had a really good third period. We played 40 good minutes. Then we go into Davos, and we played good first. I think we outchanced them through the game, had a bad second period, played good in the third, not enough, didn't score. We played Geneva in the first one. In Geneva, we had a slow start, but played a really good second and third period and almost came back. We made it 4-3. But it just seemed like in all those games, the common thread was we didn't make a lot of mistakes, but when we did, it was a blow up and it was in our net. And that's disheartening. It's not like, something, you can pinpoint. It just, so we went back to working on our D zone, working on defense. And then we played Rappy and we played absolutely dominating. I think we kept them to 9 scoring chances and we had 16. And that took a lot of steam out because we knew, but then I looked at it, reinvigorated our group, said, we played good. We said, we're not going to focus on result. We're going to focus on process. That was a great process. We go to Lugano Friday night. I know I'm getting deep into this, but we go to Lugano. We travel there. It's our longest trip of the year. And Bern is sitting at home, not playing Friday night. And we're like, whoa. We play a pretty good game. I don't think we deserved to win in Lugano, but we were pretty darn close. Maybe with a bit of luck. Like, I would say I would give them a 55-45 advantage or 52-48 even. But they were better and full marks for the effort. So now we come back Saturday to play Bern, who's rested. For the first time I've ever seen something was both teams went on the ice to start the game in yellow jerseys. And you're looking going, okay, that's a first. And then the ref come over and said, hey, they're supposed to change, but they don't have another set with them. So our guys went off. We got our blacks on. But you could see the boys come out, and it was kind of like between the comedy of it and like, oh, we got to change. There was a little resiliency in our group, and we came on from the first shift. We went to town and we played really well. That's a great team in Bern. I'm sure next time we see them, they're gonna bring it. So I have no doubt. But it's a team that we didn't beat last year, and at least in my time here, and so it was a big step. But the step had been coming, and you could see it even 2 periods in Geneva, 2 against Zurich, 2 against Davos. It just, the problem was the big blowups. But going back to what you said, like even last year, going into February. So from the time, even before I came, Julien Vauclair came in and took over for 3 games. So from that time till the beginning of February, till we lost Julius Nattinen. We'd already lost Turkalainen, but we lost Julius. We were 3 games under 500. And that was a team that had 1 win in its first, would we have 3 points in our first 20 last year, first 20 games? So we were close to 500. And I, with a little bit of bounce, a little more resilience, a little bit more focus, I think at that point we could have been a 500 team in that span. Now this is a different year. Other teams have loaded up and gotten stronger. We've hit some injuries, so the challenge is harder. But I think we're better than our record shows, and we can be better if we continue to grow. That's the way I would look at summing it up.
And if people indeed follow the National League, I mean, it's been out of its mind wacky at times. If you just consider the fact that Geneva, whom you played so closely, sits in the second place of the league standings right now. They lost to Lausanne 11-0 the other day. Like it's incredibly how close together some of the teams are, how far apart they appear to be on other game days. But you playing competitive hockey and that in a French-speaking part of the country. You've been to the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland. Interestingly enough, not too much time spent in German-speaking realms. Is it different coaching in the French-speaking part of Switzerland? And if so, how so?
No, it's not. Like the hockey is the hockey. I think when I've been in different areas, people say, "Oh, the French players are different, the Italian players." I think there's cultural. I don't know how to say it. Anyway, that the hockey is the hockey. For me, the cultural differences is maybe the food might be a little bit different. There's little dishes that are different here. The language is different, but the passion for the game, the passion for their team in this country is tremendous. And so I value my time in Italy. I'm still learning Italian because I want to perfect the second language, but it's helped me with my French as well. But I would say to you that this is a passionate hockey country. They love it. You nailed it when you said from night to night, the diversities can be different. Like a great team could take a loss. It's the same in Russia. You'll see, I think some other leagues, you'll see that team that's in the bottom. Not very much do they rise up. But I think here, you'll see it quite often where, Lausanne, pounds Geneva, which surprised me. But Lausanne's a team that's been in the finals twice, loaded up even more this year. But the interesting story there was they get beat Saturday night by Cloton. Cristobal Huet is one of the coaches on Lausanne, and his son plays net for Cloton and stands on his head to beat his father's team. Great little story in itself, but that's the way it is in this league, and you have to be on your toes every single day.
I use this as a cliffhanger for the next time around. We will be able to talk. You as someone who likes to set a tone in terms of culture, who likes to have a vision in place, and obviously with Julien Vauclair, you got a strong counterpart on the sportive management side of things. From what you've tried to accomplish, from what you've tried to set in terms of team culture and vision for the program, how far have you gotten? Where do you want to be if we record, let's say, this conversation a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now?
Well, for me, what we've done, it started last year in terms of how we look at ourselves, to stop focusing on final outcomes, goals, assists, wins, losses. and I don't think it's any different on any team. When you get focused on the end result, you lose focus of your process, and you quickly can tumble. But when you take care of your process, how you prepare, how you train, how you focus, how you eat, how hard you work, and if you set standards within your process, higher standards, what happens is when you're focused on the process, then you'll get the wins that you deserve. And it's no different than in any walk of life, that if you come every day and you bring the work ethic, the mentality, and you focus, like I tell goal scorers, like if you go, oh, I haven't scored a goal. Why? I don't know. I'm snake bitten. But if you sit with the player and you say to them beforehand, okay, tell me what type of player you are. Well, I'm a guy that has an offensive lean. I do this and this. Okay, when you're playing your best game, what are you doing? Not scoring goals. What are you doing? Well, I'm getting shots on net. I'm not turning the puck over. So what I try to do is get players, give me 3 to 4, maybe 5 things in your game that we can identify when you're playing well. Okay, shooting. I need hits. Okay, give me something that we can measure. Okay, I need 5 shots a night. I'm a shooter. I need less than 2 turnovers a game. I need to have 5 hits a game. I need, okay. So then we watch it. So when that guy's not scoring now, and he comes in and his head's hanging low, I can say, let's not look at the goals. Are you getting your shots on net? No, I'm only getting 2, not 5. Where's your turnovers? I'm averaging 6. Okay. Well, let's go back to focusing on that. And then all of a sudden now the player's like, okay, I'm not turning this one over. I'm going to get it in deep. I'm not passing this one from the slot. I'm shooting it. What ends up happening is the goals come. And it's the same with the team. What drives our game? What are we as a team? What's our identity? Let's form that identity. And we've done a lot of interesting things here, and we're almost at the end of our journey in terms of we're doing a little bit of a group project as a team. We've read Legacy, the book from about the All Blacks, and we've had 6 meetings already. We take 2 to 3 chapters at a time. We have different guys get up and speak, and how that can impact our team and how we can incorporate it. And we've done some other things on top of that to create our identity, as the All Blacks have done, and what drives our game. And so when things aren't going right, then we get back to those drivers and that focus and process. And we use that as our standard, our foundation, that we go back to every time when things aren't going. So that's how we're building our culture and identity. But I'm using it. What I've done now, I've done this in the past, but what I've done now is I've actually gotten 3 of the players. I'm kind of like you, the David Letterman, or the Jimmy Fallon. Like, I ran the first 2 chapters top to bottom, and then I went to 3 players and said, hey, you got this chapter, you got this chapter, you got this chapter. Come in and describe it. Ask players, go around the room and get guys involved in how they see it can affect us. And then I'll give them 2 to 3 questions. Here are 2 to 3 questions that you can use to get team involvement. And by handing it off to the players and getting them invested and them involved in it, instead of me standing at the front and lecturing them, they've made it their own. And today I came in, and we've always had this. Where I've been, we did an identity board on the door coming in and out. And it's like, this is who we are. This is what we stand for. This is how we play. And it might be like, we're resilient. We never give up. We're hard to play against by doing this, whatever they put it together, and they signed it, and they put it up there. Now they're committed to it because it's theirs. It's not mine. It's not the assistants. It's not Julian's. The players have done this, and I've just kind of rounded them and shaped them in the direction, that we needed them to go. And I'm hoping it pays long-term dividends. So when I see you in 3 to 5 years, I hope you see us as a club that's consistently fighting for playoffs, hard to play against every night, is respected, that's recruiting good Swiss players and good imports that want to come here and be part of that and play in a great town. And it's a tremendous hockey environment. Our fans are incredible. It's a fun place to play. We've just put in 8 new super boxes that are sold out. They already did the lodges on the far end previous. It's really become a great place to play. So in 3 to 5 years, I hope I'm still here. You're asking me, and we're consistently, we're in playoff hockey. We're creating successes based off that identity that these players have formed together with our guidance.
We're approaching the 90-minute mark, and I only got one last question, and that kind of gets us back to the win2day Ice Hockey League. But before I do that, if listeners out there want to get into the National League, there are a couple of great websites, and I'll put some of them into the show notes of this podcast. If you want to start rooting for a team, why not Ajoie? After everything that you heard, you got an interesting set of games coming up this week. 3 more. One has already been played, or will have already been played once this conversation sees the light of day. Other 2 interesting ones on the weekend. Saturday, I think it's Fribourg. Friday it's Fribourg, and Saturday it's going to be Biel.
Yep.
Why not after those 2 games have another look at the standings? And standings are still very tight, so one good week of hockey could literally make the difference in the standings. So I'm wishing you and the team all the best for that endeavor. But if we move over to the win2day Ice Hockey League, your player from last year, TJ Brennan, whom you had on Ajoie, he's currently tearing up.
Love him.
He's tearing up the win2day Ice Hockey League. 4 games played, 6 goals, number 1 in the entire league. 4 assists, which is tied for number 3 in the entire league. 4 games, 10 points. I mean, you know him, and judging from the look on your face, you're not surprised at all.
No, I'm so proud. I've been following. I watch the highlights of every game. Me and Petri Newman talk every morning. Hey, TJ lit it up again. We're so happy for him. You should get him on. He's just a really good guy. I spent a lot of time with TJ last year. Unfortunately, with the way the imports were here, we have an offensive defenseman in Julius Honka, or Anthony Honka as well. To get the brothers mixed up, Anthony Honka is here, and TJ's just a great guy, great family guy. He's got a great wife and little boy. I couldn't be happier. He's a great player. I'm really excited for him. He's really good. And I would say with you, yeah, we can use all the fans that are out there. And if you want a team to cheer for, Ajoie is good. You just ask yourself, when you read stories, if you open the Bible, are you a fan of David or Goliath? Well, we're David. We're the little one that we're trying to overcome, and we're trying to throw that stone and knock down the big giant. So if you like David, come and cheer for us. And we're a team full of battlers, and we're there. But it's a great league. It's a great league to discover. Come to a game. It doesn't take much by train or car. There's a lot, as you said. There's a lot of interesting places to follow on the website. And as I tell everyone, if you're not a fan of our team, as long as you're a fan of hockey, you're okay with me. Everyone's got to support their team and be loyal. But this is the greatest game in the world. And you meet the greatest people like yourself in here. I met so many good people in Austria and I've met, in Italy, and I'm just so thankful for my journey, and I'm really, really happy that we get to talk about it. Thank you very much for having me.
Promise you one thing. I'll try to catch a game or an Ajoie game, hopefully late this year. By the time we'll be talking to each other, or next time around you'll be on the pod, you will have turned 60. I hate to give away that fact, so if I don't see you again up until then, have a tremendous 60th. Congratulations on becoming a granddad. Wishing you all the best for your journey that you're on with Ajoie, and it's always tremendous catching up with you. Took so much more time out of your valuable time budget than I should have taken, but tremendously appreciative that you jumped onto the podcast. Coach, always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Let me just say this to finish. I appreciate you giving my age away. I don't feel it. I feel about 15 years younger. That's okay. I next time we got to talk about my lacrosse career, because I've resumed the last since COVID, or right before COVID, I started playing again. I'm playing. I play 4 tournaments a summer. With a very high-end group of guys that played pro in college. We go to tournaments and play. So I feel 15 years younger, back playing A pretty good level. Still old timers, but it's pretty good level. Still working out quite a bit, but yes, we all age gracefully each year. Looking forward to my birthday, but I don't like to talk about it. But again, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I look forward to connecting with you and all your fans down the road. And let's make sure that we do this again. Thank you.
win2day Hockey-Talk.
Kurz durchatmen bei diesem Wahnsinn. Und das ging rasend schnell. Der Traum vom Finale ist erfüllt. Mittendrin statt nur dabei. Fans stimmungsvoll und hoffnungsfroh. Nice move.